Hey guys, welcome to the FG podcast. I'm your host Zach, and I'm back with Caesar, Jay, and Angel.
I love it.
The FG podcast is here to talk about lots of different topics, but we hope to show everyone in real time what it's like to be a content creator and build a following. We're all creatives and work full time building our businesses, which focus on content marketing. And thanks for joining us this week's show, where we're going to be talking about the creative process. First off, how are you guys doing today? What's new this week? What's exciting you right now? Talk to me.
It's been exciting because we've been improving our workflow. So I feel like there's been more time to be creative now that we've gotten some processes down in regards to like client intake, releasing content, and moving on to more personal endeavors.
Yeah, same. We filmed our first video, well, at least like in a different style of content on Saturday, and so the editing process this week has been interesting, but it's been cool because I get to kind of work with you guys and then figure out kind of what my look and feel is going to be. So it's been interesting this week for sure.
Dude, yeah, this new work flow that me and Angel are trying out. I had like 12 videos that I haven't edited, and then I sent them to Angel, and he gets them done like in 2 seconds. He's like, "All right, it's done." And then like with music and everything, and I'm like, "Oh shit, okay, voiceover time." It's pretty cool. I'm like, "Oh, it's like we're building a machine."
Such an over exaggeration.
Dude, it was like 2 seconds. Or maybe it's because I'm stuck in the fucking vortex of website building that we undercharged, and that I'm like, fuck, I'm not a designer. Oh my god, dude, don't even get me started. This fucking website. But yeah, it's been great. It's been great, Zach.
Awesome to hear.
Passing it over to you. Passing it over, tossing them.
What are you guys creating this week? And what's the most exciting thing you're working on?
Me?
Anyone?
This fucking
Well, we're
website.
staring at you, Jack.
Jay, I'm always going to look at you.
I'm really excited for
The
this
whole
website.
time.
Dude, the website. No, you should not be excited. I mean, I'm hyped. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great, but it's just like, you know, when you would get an assignment in school and you were like, ah, fuck, like it was whatever subject that you didn't like, whether it was essays, and you're like, God damn it, that's how I feel. I feel like, God damn it.
Like it's homework?
Yeah, it's like push it off. But like with videos, I'm like, dude, let's get it going. And then this guy gets me all excited when he edits it, and I'm like, oh, okay, story time, story time, story time. I don't know, it's something different. But
Very
what was the
cool,
question?
guys.
What was the question? There's a lot of
I
creative.
said, what are you creating this week?
I'm making a
What's exciting
website.
you about what you're creating?
What I'm creating, what I'm excited about is what this guy's doing with the videos. I'm excited for this guy's his new series, which is gonna be record shops and bubble tea, I think.
Sounds eclectic, but it
Yeah.
works. So, in an effort to kind of keep everything fresh on the podcast and what we're talking about, I really wanted to start bringing in some special guests on the show. And today we're joined by Stefan Possinger. Stefan is principal of Spoko Marketing and Digital. He's got 23 years of experience. He's been instrumental in developing marketing and branding strategies for some of El Paso's most iconic organizations. Stefan, welcome to the show. It's always a pleasure to hear your perspectives, and we look forward to talking with you today about some of the deeper aspects of creating and the creative process. So, just to start out, Stefan, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Will do. Hey, Zach, thank you very much. Zazu, DLS, thank you very much, you guys. Awesome podcast that you guys are doing. El Paso needs more stuff like this. They need professionals like ourselves, creatives like ourselves, people who put content together like this to truly understand that this kind of service exists here in El Paso. You know, I've been in the ad business for over 20 years. And since I've gone out on my own, exciting, just like you guys, right? It's an exciting time. But one thing I've realized in talking to people here in El Paso is they haven't had an option here locally to do the kinds of things that we're doing. So it's good for us to do it. And I think it's good for our viewers to understand that, you know what, we have an outlet to where we can truly grow our business in the digital world, the content world, the branding world, and do it right here in El Paso and not have to put our money somewhere else. So that's kind of cool. I got a little jealous listening to you all about all the cool stuff you were doing this week. What are you working on? I'm going to tout my horn a little bit. I was helping a prominent El Paso client rebrand their entire business. They came to me, they said, you know, I'm not sure about the logo. In fact, they just came to me and said, we want to do a couple of changes, want to do some signage. And I looked at it and he goes, we want to update some uniforms, things like that. And I said, you know what? Now's the time. Let's take that creative process that we're going to talk about today. Let's really look at your self differentiation, your competition, and let's make that big change. And they went for it.
Nice.
And I'm proud to say that we've been designing that stuff. We have new logos out. Websites are going to come. And I feel you. I'm like, every night. It's a little bit of a pain in the ass. But to your point, Angel, you almost have to know the end game before you get there. And so when you tell him, man, he edits his videos so damn fast. How does he know? Because he's already kind of seeing where that needs to be. And when you have that experience and you take that time in the creative process, these things happen a little quicker, right? Because you just know it and you feel it. So I'm psyched about that. Thank you guys for having me. I'll shut the hell up. Go.
Welcome.
No, glad to have you.
That was great, Stefan, and I think it segues perfectly into what we want to talk about next, which is the creative process. And I'm going to start kind of in the abstract here and kind of filter down to the more technical aspects of what we're doing. But I just wanted to ask everyone a couple of questions and kind of get a sense of what everyone thinks about this. But what is creativity and where does it come from? For you guys, like not for the general populace, but like, you know, each one of you, what is creativity to you and where do you find the inspiration for it?
I guess the follow-up question is like, is creativity only limited to like originality, or is creativity just like a blend of just different ideas? What do you think, Caesar?
I think it's a blend of different ideas. I think it's hard to be original.
Mhm.
Like I think what you do is like for a while there I was trying to figure out how to live like do original things, live an original life, but like it's then I realized like oh like I've been so influenced by my parents and by like everyone that I study, that I admire, that I want like that's where like my thoughts actually come from. Like I take a little bit of Tim Ferriss, take a little bit of Joe Rogan, take a little bit of this person, and like I start combining all these things about their lives that I like. Similar with like video creation. I see something from Logan Paul and I'm like, dude, that's super cool. But also like other creators online. And for me, I think the beginning point of creativity is building the habit of just creating. When you read Stephen Pressfield's The War of Art, the War of Art. He talks about like you have to get over resistance, which I think is the biggest thing that is in our way when we want to make something. It's like the procrastination, it's the self-doubt, it's the I don't know how to do it, and all those things can be true and are true, but like even though they are there, you have to get into the habit of making stuff. So I think that's point one of like creativity. You start the habit, and once you are just in the habit, and you're just constantly making stuff, then you'll get the confidence. At least this is how it happened to me, to then start like putting yourself out there more, where like, you think, oh, this is a cool idea, but I like it a lot. I don't know if it's gonna hit.
But creativity, I feel, has to start with the idea first before you even have something to act on. So, I mean, if you have a habit, but there's nothing to like work off of, then the process still isn't started. So maybe it comes down to like idea generation first in regards to like how you build ideas, and then you work past that
I
that
think it's
resistance.
interesting. I'm kind of in between, literally in between both of you, but it also depends on what you're being creative with. So like, let's say for music, right? I find that the longer I stay around where I can create music, it's almost like having a faucet running, and like the more that I can just be there, the ideas will come. But if I feel like if I'm not around it, I'll miss the idea. So like you're saying, but that's because I'm making music, right? So that could be, I guess, the idea generation. But I think what you're saying, I like what you're saying, because I think creativity is like where you've been, what you've seen, and like the things you've been exposed to, your environments, what you like. And I think all that combined is what creativity is what you see, how you see it, how you explain it, how you filmed it, how you draw it.
So then you're saying to start the creative process is to be in the correct environment.
I think you got to set the stage for creativity to kind of happen.
And I think we're going to talk about a lot of these different aspects about creativity and the creative process a little later in the show. I have some great prompts. You guys touched on some amazing stuff already, but I really was getting at what is creativity? What does it mean to be creative? And just to kind of prompt you, I have this quote from Albert Einstein, and I verified it was from Albert Einstein before I didn't pull this off a meme. I
Or
promise.
Google Images?
Yeah. But he says creativity is intelligence having fun. Like that's his definition. And for me, it's more, creativity is how we address challenges and problems and stuff like that. Like you have to think differently, think outside the box. Like that's the essence of what creativity is to me.
Yeah, I
It's
think-
not just about painting a picture, making a song, doing things like that. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly. I think it's, I don't know, for me, it's like it's like almost like a reflection of not necessarily just your emotions, but just the way you think, the way you attack. Like if it's, you can be creative with anything, right? Like you can be creative how you make your coffee, but it's just how you are doing it and what's inside of you causing you to do it that way. I think that what creativity is. And that's why there's so many different creatives and everyone has a different feel and vibe. 'Cause I think
Stefan,
it's what comes from inside.
sorry, Stefan, you've worked with creatives for a very long time. You've got 23 years in this game and probably more, working with creatives. I just want to hear what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, first off, I love hearing everything. Your all's perspective is a little bit different, but it still resides in the exact same lane. Caesar, the first thing you said, I wanted to say it at some point on this podcast and be like, I don't want to be a downer and let everybody know that creativity really isn't that original.
Yeah.
There are no really original ideas out there. Oh, there's a few, we still find them. But sometimes the argument in our business is you can buy good creative anywhere. If you don't have the strategy behind it, Albert Einstein apparently said it. Intelligence having fun. Intelligence. Well, what's the intelligence aspect? What's our goal? You kind of talked about it. What's the box we're in? We do kind of, they always say, oh, think outside of the box. I can't stand that term because nobody really defines it. You have to define what the box is before you can think outside of it. And when you think outside of it, you're usually in a bad spot. Confine yourself to what the goal is, what the strategy is, what we need to do. And note that it may not be an original idea, but I also absolutely love the habit that you're trying to create by trying this. Where I came from, artists went to school for this kind of stuff. This has changed. Creatives are doing what you're doing now. They are trying and they're going, you know what, maybe that wasn't so good. But if I don't wake up tomorrow and I don't do another piece, I'm not going to learn from what happened yesterday. I'm not going to continue to create. And I go back to what I said when I opened. Other markets throughout the United States are doing this left and right. We are not. We are in the infancy of this. And so it's good for us and creatives like this to take advantage of that. And I think that's a big part of the creative process.
I love all these answers, guys. Very different perspectives, different things to touch on. And I think a couple of you kind of touched on this briefly, but I wanted to get to your thoughts on, is this something that's innate in us? Like, are we born creative? And I already know the answer for me, but I want to hear your perspective. Like, in my opinion, I was not born creative. Like, I went a very logical route. I studied political science. I went to law school. I became a lawyer. That's very logical. Like, there's certainly creative aspects of what I did, but until I picked up a camera and started making art, I didn't feel like a creative and I didn't feel like I could even say that, and nowadays I'm like, I know I'm a creative because I'm creating every day and I love that. But so is it a skill that can be developed or is it something that's just inside of you?
I think it could be developed, but to a certain ceiling. So like, I think you can go and try things until you get pretty good at it. But I think next level shit is, I think there's something inside of someone, or I don't know. I just think it is something inside of you. And I think some people are born with a little more than others.
And how would you describe what that more is? Is that like sensitivity to the human experience, or what is it exactly?
I think it's a mixture of that and I guess, yeah, just maybe just a little more emotional. So they're feeling things a little bit stronger or seeing things a little stronger. Like, if you play a song for two different people, maybe one person is like, oh, that's cool. And the other person's in tears or something. So I think there's a little bit more like rawness to certain people that gives them just a slight kind of like different angle at seeing things than most.
I do believe like creativity is linked to how curious somebody might be. And curiosity can be a learned behavior in the sense of like, oh, well, maybe this process can be better, or maybe this would do well in this environment, or this piece of art can be presented in this fashion. So I think if you're a curious individual, you can be very creative from the start. But if you're not originally a curious person, then you might not describe yourself as a creative person. But I feel like if you surround yourself with people that tend to ask a lot of different questions or tend to bring up a new way of thinking, that might develop new creativity.
I agree.
What do you think?
I think the creativity is I'm not sure if it's in you, and I don't want to say no, because like I remember listening to podcasts when I wanted to start a business, and it's like the question was like, is entrepreneurship like innate, or like can you build it? So I don't know the answer there, but I do know that I feel that creativity is a form of vulnerability. And when you look at I talked to like some dance teachers, and they put it in a really good perspective that like why learning to dance is so hard. Learning to really dance, meaning that like you're listening to the music and you're kind of just like you're reacting to what your body tells you, and it looks good. And the reason for that it's hard to get there is because you're at peak vulnerability. Like you're really just feeling what's inside you and then expressing it, right? And to express it with full force so that it looks good is just to show the world like this is what I'm feeling. And to build videos, to make videos, to do anything creative is that thing that I feel like inside you, you feel like this would be fucking cool to make, but you don't know, you have no assurance that by putting it out there, people are going to react the same way that you reacted. And so therefore, like I think that it's a very vulnerable thing. So to be creative, you have to just at least want to be okay with being vulnerable, because I look at my friends that aren't doing like creative things, but I feel like they're very creative people. But what stops them is like they tell me like, oh, Caesar, well, what are people going to think? Which is the same thought that I have, or like artists say that too. And so it leads me to believe that we're maybe all creative, but it's how vulnerable are you willing to be, because your creativity will come out through that vulnerability.
Well, I guess I'll follow up with Stefan. I mean, you've worked with a lot of different creators. So, I mean, do you see like any kind of common characteristics with creators that weren't the best partners, or